Thank you, Marie, for the very kind introduction. Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing? The coffee wasn't served, I guess. So how are you doing, guys? Nice, better. I don't have a guitar, so this is not going to be a rock concert, but this is as close as we got to one. Okay, so I guess that I don't really have to be convincing anyone here in this room that we are now leaving enormous amount of digital footprints while using digital products and services. Humans are increasingly migrating to digital environment, which means that our human activities like communicating, interacting, socializing, learning, working, paying for stuff, and even dating are now to an increasing amount mediated by digital products and services. And now I used to do the following thing at this stage of this lecture, which was I would ask an audience to raise their hands. I would ask anyone to raise their hand who believes that they do not have a microprocessor on them, that they don't have the microprocessor on themselves at the moment. But then no one ever raises hands anymore. But maybe let me try it again. Is there anyone in the room that thinks that they have no microprocessor on themselves at the moment? We have one person. Congratulations, sir. You're escaping the digital world successfully. So you don't have your mobile phone, car keys. No? Watch, electronic watch? No? Hotel key card? Well done. Look, congratulations. We have one person here. Well, so apart from you, the rest of us are basically surrounded by those devices, and we are producing 500 megabytes, or we used to be producing 500 megabytes of data, of digital footprints, every single day back in 2012. So those are the emails that you're writing, the social network interactions, the geographical locations that are being recorded by devices such as your smartphone, but also by your Facebook if you have it open, or by Google if you are logged in, or your iPhone administrator as well. Web browsing logs, all the videos of the kittens that you upload online, profile pictures, and so on. Now, even if you don't carry a microprocessor, you're still leaving digital footprints, right? Because people can take picture of you, and we all know that it all ends up online. Your face can be recognized, so you're still leaving digital footprints even if you don't carry any devices yourself. The same about CCTV. I know that Germany is not so keen on CCTV, but in England, you're basically going to be captured by hundreds of CCTV every single day as you just go about your life. Now, interestingly, even if you think that you are not leaving a digital footprint, I'm constantly surprised when I learn about the context in which we kind of revealing information about ourselves. My favorite example is Facebook messaging. Now, if you write this message at 2 a.m., not being exactly sober, and then you decide, okay, maybe it's not the best idea to send it, guess what? It still has been recorded. The same about online email clients. Most of them, if you type the message, you cancel it afterwards, the data will still be stored. There's this saying in Silicon Valley that if you are not paying for something, then you are the product. And everyone understands it when it comes to Facebook or Google. We all understand that Facebook basically monetizes our eyeballs. So basically, Facebook is farming its users, which I'm not using in a negative way. I really quite like Facebook myself and use it a lot. But then I'm fully aware that I'm a product of Facebook that's being sold to advertisers. Now, who in this room has a credit card? Hands up. Okay, great. Now write your PIN number on a little napkin, and I will collect the napkins afterwards. Okay, who here is paying for a credit card? You can, well, guys, you should really do some research. There are awesome credit cards out there. You don't have to pay for them. They actually pay you for having a credit card. And guess why? They pay you for having a credit card because you are the product. When credit card companies started, they defined themselves as financial institutions, and they were selling us credit cards. So this was the product. But recently, they realize that they're not selling credit cards. They're not selling transactions or transaction mediation. They are selling us or insights about our consumer behaviors, our purchases, and so on. And this is why they're very keen to pay you for having a credit card. So if you're still paying for having a credit card, seriously go and do some research. You can get a few % back for all the purchases. Now, all of this data amounts to, well, enormous heap of data every single day. So imagine you wanted to back up just 1 day worth of data that humanity is producing, or used to be producing in 2012, and back it up. On paper, A4, double-sided, font size 12, Times New Roman, zeros and ones. How tall is going to be the stack of paper? Any guesses? Come on. You will never get a job at a consulting company if you do not excel at answering such silly questions. Come on, you want a job. So how tall the stack of paper containing just 1 day worth of data is going to be? To the moon! Great, we're at a great scale. Taller than that. It's going to be from the surface of the Earth to the sun 4 times over. And we're speaking only about 1 day worth of data that you are guys producing all here in this room. Now, in 2025, because as you clearly realize, we are producing more and more data, it's going to be even more data, 62 gigabytes per person every single day, plus we're going to have more people. Now, you upgraded your backing up devices, now you're backing it up on DVDs. How tall will be the stack of DVDs containing 1 day worth of data? To the moon! Well, if you say it enough times, finally the response will be correct. Well, 4 days. 4 days worth of data would be to the moon. 1 day worth of data would be 100,000 kilometers of a tower of DVDs. Okay, guys, what is this? Pardon? Great. That's basically an Amazon response to a USB hard drive. 10 petabytes. It takes 10 days to load it up with data at the speed of 21 DVDs per second. Now, an interesting fact here. You actually knew the correct response, but you could see that everyone else was silent. No one said anything. It's interesting, if you ask this question in America, everyone says, oh, it's a trailer truck, because it's a trailer truck. It's such an easy question. If you ask this question in Europe, it never happened. No one ever says trailer truck. People say, I don't know. And I'm like, look at this. It's a trailer truck. There's a cultural difference for you here. But well done that you knew it. So this is how Amazon, how big companies are now going about moving their data between their server rooms, basically, or uploading them to Amazon cloud. We are producing data at an ever-increasing pace, and the pace of the progress in computing power or being able to transmit the data is not catching up. Right? We cannot process data and we cannot send the data between places as fast as we can as we can produce it, which gives you an idea about the flood of data that we're increasingly living in. But also, this data is tremendously useful. Combining this data with AI technologies that I know you talked a lot about today allows you not only to understand the past, but very accurately predict the future. And this is why the economists now, and The Economist, believes that this is basically data is the most valuable resource at the moment, and its value is going to be increasing even further. And now this has few other consequences, like most of the companies today, companies that care about innovating and trying to keep up with the technological progress would define themselves as data companies. And I'm sure you heard about, well, obviously Facebook and Google and Microsoft would define themselves as well, with Microsoft, it's not so obvious because they used to define themselves as a software company. Now they define themselves as a data company. But other companies, such as banks do not see themselves as financial institutions anymore. If you talk to their CEOs and boards, they will tell you, we see ourselves as a data company, very much like Facebook. Everyone probably heard about Tesla. They refuse to be called an automotive, they refuse to be put in the same basket as other producers of cars. They insist they are not producing cars, they're producing data and producing software. They're a data company. Now, recently I gave a similar talk to executives at the largest developer in the world, property developer, and I thought, hey, you know, let's be a bit controversial. Let me try to convince the CEO that his company is in fact data company. And I didn't really believe that. I thought, look, he's just building houses, okay? Like, how can this be a data company? So I approached him before the talk and I say, you know, sir, I will try to convince you today. And he interrupted me and said that I'm a data company. And he said, I know. And I was like, okay, tell me, because actually now you got me interested. And he said the following thing. It's so obvious with hindsight. Look, he said, if I can predict the prices of raw materials tomorrow, if I can predict the movements in the property market, I'm winning with the competition. He says, I'm operating those buildings that I've built. I have shopping malls, I have CCTV cameras, I know who is coming in, who is coming out. I can optimize payments for people, I can make predictions on what consumers are going to buy. And now, if you're a shop or a brand and you want to choose between shopping malls, and I will offer you all of those additional services, I'm winning on the market. So now, it kind of shows you that large part of our industrial activities got, in a way, commoditized. The competitive edge that you're getting as a property developer or a car producer is no longer in making a better engine or a better whatever is there else in the car apart from engine. You see, I don't really know much about cars. Why? Because we already reached the ceiling of progress in most of those cases. You guys all heard about exponential growth. It's called exponential growth. It's called Moore's law in biology, in genetics. It's called the Red Queen phenomenon. And basically, it argues that if you are evolving faster as an organism, then all organisms around you would also have to evolve faster or perish, which creates this ever-increasing speed of evolution, even biological evolution. Now, the problem with ever-increasing speed is that you're hitting the, well, I think Ray Kurzweil would call it singularity. You're hitting this point where you cannot really kind of evolve even faster. But then what happens, you just change the paradigm. So in the development of the cars, the development of the internal combustion engine was really fast, but then we got probably as great engines as we can imagine we'll ever get, but the progress now basically changed. The paradigm shifted to thinking about software and self-driving cars and so on, which allows us to maintain the speed of the progress. Now, I mentioned when I started this digressions here, I mentioned that big data combined with AI allows you to understand the past and predict the future. And you can do it in many different contexts. I mentioned few. You can do it in the stock market context, in the context of running a country, where most of the self-respecting countries will now try to employ evidence-based policies. Now think about it for a second. That means that those countries are being run by computers. Of course, there are politicians saying, look, this is what we're going to do, and by the way, this is the evidence, the printout from my complex statistical software that shows you that this is actually going to increase the well-being for everyone in this country. Effectively, the decisions are being made by computers when it comes how to run the countries. And you guys live in one of the countries that is actually doing great in this regard. Pawns of AI, just saying. Okay, and I, as a psychologist, I apply the same paradigms that you can apply to running a country or predicting stock market prices to trying to understand human behavior and predict future human behavior. And one of my favorite digital footprints is Facebook likes. Now, it's not that I particularly like, well, I actually like Facebook, but It's not that I want to study Facebook, or it's not that I'm particularly interested in Facebook likes. It's just that Facebook likes are this beautiful vanilla type of a digital footprint. It's very similar to other types of digital footprints, like your credit card purchases, or your Spotify playlist, or whatever kittens you watched on YouTube recently. Facebook likes are very similar type of data. And now, my question was, when I started looking at it, what can we learn? What can we predict by combining AI and large data sets of digital footprints, of Facebook likes of 6+ million people that were generous enough to donate their Facebook likes to our research project. And now, so this is an example of an anonymous profile here with few Facebook likes. And now if you show a profile like this to a human being, what happens is that human being will be able to look at those movies and perhaps, with some accuracy, predict what the movie taste of this user is, right? Now, interestingly, it's possible only if you're in the same cultural environment. Now, if I showed you a profile of my Indian friend that watches Bollywood movies, I guess that most of you guys would be completely puzzled because you've never seen a movie like this, you've never known a person, or you never discussed those movies with anyone, so probably you wouldn't be able to predict movie taste of this person. But here, I guess that most of you guys will be able to figure out the movie taste of this individual. Now, this is what humans can do. But you wouldn't be surprised that if you show the same type of data to a computer algorithm, the predictions can be much broader. And let me show you a short video here that gives you more details.
Now, clicking like on Facebook is something most of us do without thinking.
The University of Cambridge over in London actually did a study
of what people like on Facebook to try to determine facts about them that they wouldn't otherwise know. So they didn't just look at the products, the movies, the bands that people like. They also looked at the status updates that people liked, and they were able to draw some really interesting conclusions about
all of your likes that you're clicking can tell more about you than you might have realized, from your political values to your religion to your gender to your happiness to your age.
In fact, some parts of your identity can be predicted with 95% accuracy.
Accuracy was lowest, about 60%, when it came to predicting whether a user's parents were still together when they were 21. People whose parents divorced before they were 21 tended to like statements about relationships. Drug users were ID'd with about 65% accuracy, smokers with 73%, and drinkers with 70%. Sexual orientation was also easier to distinguish among men, 88% right there. For women, it was about 75%. Gender, by the way, race, religion, and political views were predicted with high accuracy as well. For instance, white versus black, 95%.
The findings have alarmed privacy campaigners who fear this research could be used to commercially exploit users.
So keep in mind that just because you think you're not revealing a lot of personal details on Facebook, you're still spreading the word to the outside world as well as those online marketers.
Volunteers with few friends liked walking with your friend and randomly pushing them into someone or something. Hey, it's not their fault they don't have friends. Everyone they know keeps getting randomly pushed into traffic. High IQ corresponds to liking Mozart, science, and the Colbert Report.
Research indicated people who like Harley-Davidson motorbikes are generally of low IQ. We thought we'd better offer a right to reply.
I'd say our average customer is probably more intelligent than most, and we've certainly got a lot of customers who are, well, people from Cambridge University for a start.
A like on Facebook can reveal if you're a gay man. Yeah, especially if what you choose to like is penises. It's apparently true. That's my wife walking in. I'm like, oh! It's a joke.
Okay. By the way, don't be an idiot and think that if somebody clicked on Wicked the Musical that they're gay automatically, or they clicked on Harley Davidson and they're stupid automatically. Ironically, that would make you stupid.
So as you guys could see, you can use a relatively simple, in fact, algorithm to turn those Facebook likes that to us humans would not reveal much or reveal something that is, well, really straightforward, like you look at someone's movies and you can predict their movie taste, but a very simple computer algorithm can turn those likes into very broad spectrum of predictions related to many different intimate traits. And some of them were discussed in the video, so let me just skip quickly to an explanation of how those models work. And I have this equation here for you that might make everything clear, but maybe before we go there, let me give you one intuitive example. So if I told you that there was this anonymous user and they liked Hello Kitty, the brand, what would be your prediction about who this person is? What's their gender? So prejudiced, and yet so right. According to Facebook Audience Insights, 99% of people who like Hello Kitty are in fact female. So now, if you just know one thing about someone, that they like Hello Kitty, it's safe to assume that basically they're a female. Right? Also, a young female. You can see that 65 plus females are very heavily underrepresented in this group. Now, what kind of job would the person liking Hello Kitty, the brand, do? Would they be in the military or maybe in sales? Sales, great. You can see you making very good predictions, like a very decent AI. Now, would they be an iPhone user or an Android user? iPhone, of course, they would be beyond someone's dignity that uses Hello Kitty to use an Android. Of course, it's an iPhone user. Great. So what you can see here is that from this one piece of information, you can make very accurate, even us humans can make very accurate predictions about who this person might be. Now, the advantage that computers have over us humans is that they can squeeze information or benefit from the information from footprints that are much less obvious. So now, everything you do in your life, everything you buy, everything you like, everything you say, every word that you utter is to some tiny little degree related to both your past, your education, to your social background, to your interest, to your personality, your character, and your future, right? Those connections are usually too subtle for a human being to spot it. Some of them might be even too subtle for a computer model based on just 7 billion of us to spot. But in fact, there's always a statistical relationship between you liking Pulp Fiction and you being a computer scientist. Now, as a human, I don't really know what this link would be, but a computer model that can look at millions of people can spot that your chances of being a computer scientist, if you like Pulp Fiction, are increased or maybe decreased by 0.5%. Now, for a human being, this data is lost. Why? Because we cannot work with probabilities so tiny. Now, also, in fact, this is also, you may say, an insignificant piece of data, because if you just told me that you like Pulp Fiction, and I know that liking Pulp Fiction increases your chances of being a software engineer, or by the way, being above 30, I just see some blank stares here, by 0.5%, this is not revealing much, right? Because this change in the probability is so tiny. But now if you aggregate it over hundreds or thousands of digital footprints, suddenly, not you really, but a computer would see a very clear signal. Because computer can very easily aggregate hundreds or thousands of millions of little tiny pieces of signal to arrive at the accurate profile. Humans can do it. Humans can very efficiently work maybe with 6 or 7 pieces of information simultaneously. Okay, so I gave you this example where we predicted gender of an individual, but gender is not the only thing you can predict using digital footprints. You can look at more intimate traits, such as personality, that usually is being measured with questionnaires. This is actually the best way we've got so far of measuring personality questionnaires. Now, personality is really useful, and it's being used in many different contexts. The usefulness of this personality stems that it's great at predicting future behavior. It's kind of our human response to, well, not really response, it's our human way of predicting other people's behaviors And we were using it in, let's say, the context of recruitment and selection, when you can predict whether a given person will make a good accountant or a good lawyer, a good software engineer, even before you give them training and waste their time and your time. You can predict what psychological disorders a given person might be at risk of getting. You can use it in building teams when you want to have the distribution of different personalities involved. So we're using personality in many different ways. But we are limited by the tools we're using to measure personality, which is personality questionnaires. This is why the benefits of personality testing, the benefits of modern career planning, or the benefits of matching you with the right job are limited not only to people living in the most affluent countries, but also to most affluent people in those countries. If you are looking for your first job and you're not very well educated and you're not going to be very well paid initially, no one will bother testing you with a personality test to figure out which job is best for you. Now, this is pretty bad because if you're choosing between two managers that are applying for a very high executive position, you're choosing basically between a very great one and a great one. And whichever you choose, they probably will do a good job. Now, if you have a person that just graduated from the university, and you say, whatever, I don't care what your personality profile is, you will be doing this job, you might be destroying their life. Because maybe this is not the job they're supposed to be doing, they just don't know it, maybe they don't have role models, maybe they don't have a choice. Now, spending some more time trying to help them to match them with the right job would be a great service, not only to themselves, but to the society at large. And now, why I'm making this introduction? Well, to show you that we might be actually now spectating a great change in how we approach matching people with jobs or matching people with products or diagnosing psychological disease. Because it turns out that computer algorithms are great at predicting latent psychological traits like that. And let me show you one example here. Top 10 likes and bottom 10 likes predicting openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality traits. Now, you don't really need to be a computer algorithm to see the connection, right? If you are conservative and traditional and not open-minded, you don't read, you don't like reading. If you're open-minded, you like Charles Bukowski, you really need to be, I tried. You really need to be open-minded to read Charles Bukowski. If you want to test your openness, I highly recommend doing that. Now, quiz to you guys. Which personality dimension is that? We have openness is already gone, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, which is basically emotionality. Exactly, right? That was very easy. We have some personality psychologists in the room. We have cheerleading versus Minecraft, and I feel better Tan versus programming. You can clearly see a salesman and a software engineer here on those dimensions. But obviously, most of the people don't really like cheerleading, or they don't like I don't read. Most of the likes we are liking, or most of the other digital footprints we are leaving behind are not so clearly related to any psychological trait, yet those predictions are still pretty accurate. So I have this graph here that shows how number of your Facebook likes that I can record from your profile relates to the accuracy of the prediction. Now, the problem with this plot is that if you're not a psychometrician, if you're not a personality psychologist, you wouldn't appreciate how damn good those models are. So let me illustrate it for you in a different way. What you can see here is, again, the same line, so accuracy of predictions of personality, but I will also add another type of data points, which is the accuracy of other people predicting your personality. So in this particular experiment, we took a bunch of people, 60,000 people, we got their Facebook likes, we judged their personality using their Facebook likes, we asked them to fill the personality questionnaire so we knew what the self-reported personality was, and then we went out and asked their family members and colleagues to also judge their personality using a personality questionnaire. Now, if I ask you to answer a personality questionnaire for me, in the name of your brother or mother or spouse, what you are effectively doing is you are trying to predict their behavior and give me an answer that you think that they would give. right? So what we're comparing here, we're comparing an ability of your social network neighborhood, your friends and family members. We compare their ability to predict your behavior with an ability of a computer to predict your behavior. And let me show you some examples here. Or maybe let's make it a quiz. How many likes do you think an algorithm needs to be more accurate than your work colleague that you spend 8 hours a day with? 20. You are overestimating your work colleagues, my friends, because it's just 10. You need to reveal to Facebook, a like-based algorithm, 10 likes only, for it to be more accurate at predicting your future behavior than your friends are. Now, what about friends and family members? Well, 100 about. And the most accurate of human judges, your spouse. You need 250 likes for a computer to be able to predict your behavior better than a person that you share a large fraction of your life. You have intimate conversations. They know you in good times and bad times. They can observe you when you're stressed and so on. And yet, Facebook likes that happen in a public space. No one likes anything embarrassing or anything overly intimate or anything overly revealing on Facebook, right? We're talking about pieces of signal that are totally vanilla. Now think about running the same predictions, and I cannot show you the graph here, but think about running the same predictions using your web browsing history, or your search history, or your credit card history. I've seen those analyses. I didn't run them myself because no one would share this data with me, but I've seen those analyses run in the big companies that collect this data, and the accuracies are way higher. Okay, and increasingly there are products out there. This is one posted by Cambridge University that allows you to translate Facebook likes and other similar types of digital footprints into accurate predictions of psychodemographic profiles. And of course, you can also go beyond Facebook likes. Now, I mentioned language, and those are two word clouds showing you how you can predict not how you can predict. They show you the words most and least associated with a personality trait of openness, and the accuracies of language-based models tend to be higher than accuracies of like-based models. And again, there are commercial products out there that allow you to turn samples of language into accurate predictions of psychological profiles of people. Web browsing data, this is just an example of one website and the psychological profile of an average visitor of this website. DeviantArt.com, you can see they're very open-minded, very spontaneous, and non-organized, and also very introverted on average, which very much like with Hello Kitty. If you know that this is an average profile of a person that visits DeviantArt.com, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or a computer scientist even to figure out that if you see someone that visited this page, they're most likely, well, not most likely, they're basically sampled from this distribution. So you can make predictions about their psychological profile. But now what's really exciting to me at the moment is trying to see whether we can make similar predictions from another type of pervasive digital footprint, from the digital images of people's faces. And now when I say that, especially when I say it at the university, people are like, boo, how can you even talk about predicting psychological intimate traits from someone's face? That sounds completely like a pseudoscience, and we've dealt with that hundreds of years ago. But this is really silly because we humans, we constantly make very accurate predictions about other people's intimate traits just from their faces. Example. Emotion. Look, emotion is an intimate psychological mechanism. Yet humans have no trouble very quickly judging other people's emotions from their face. Now, it is also possible when people try to hide their emotion, right? Even if I'm trying to hide my emotions, you'll be able to very accurately judge it based on an image of my face, not to mention on a short video of my face, which is even more revealing. Now, gender. Gender is another intimate trait that can be very easily judged from other people's gender, face. And interestingly, we don't really know how the human brain does it. You can show other people just a little tiny piece of someone's face, let's say corner of an eye, and the brain of that person will be very quick and very accurate at judging the personality, gender of this person. Now, we don't really understand exactly how the brain is doing this. Other traits, like race, again, shows on the face pretty clearly genetic disease. Right, so basically face is also, and this is pretty obvious if you ever looked at the child of someone and then at that someone, and you notice the similarity, what you're actually noticing is you're noticing similarity between their genes. Now, you can also spot genetic disease and also developmental diseases, like fetal alcohol syndrome. By looking at the face of a person in their 40s, you can very accurately predict whether their mother was abusing alcohol during the pregnancy, right? So we are predicting making a very complicated prediction just based on someone's face, and we're very accurate at it. Now, the political views, another example. I guess no one will have trouble predicting which of those guys voted Trump. Now, this is because face is a great proxy for genetic factors, which is pretty obvious, but also for hormonal factors, which is slightly less obvious to people. But now, think about the following. Testosterone. The higher the testosterone, the higher your hairline. And you can take it to an extreme. Now, interestingly, and there are many other effects out there of hormones, but interestingly, it's not only your current level of hormones, but even the prenatal levels of hormones. So again, at looking at someone's face at 50, at the shape of their jaw, and the width of their face, and the shape of their forehead, you can predict very accurately what were the levels of testosterone in their mother's womb 50 years earlier. And obviously also developmental and environmental factors. If you are an extroverted person living in Miami, your face would look very different from an introverted person living in the same place. Cultural factors, so fashion, how we wear our facial hair and our mane hair, also can be very easily linked with our social background, our education, whom we are voting for, and so on. But now, it might be that computer algorithms can predict more things from a human face than we can. Look, humans are not good at predicting, let's say, other people's personality from their faces. There's some accuracy there, but it's very close to random. Now, it might mean that your face does not contain information about your personality, or maybe it means that a human brain did not evolve an ability to judge your personality from your face. Maybe the information is there, very much like information about your gender, it's just that your brain didn't learn how to utilize it. And this, in fact, seems to be the case. Let me show you a very simple experiment here. So what I did here, I took 2 images of introverted women and 2 images of extroverted women. Now, if I showed you those images one-on-one, your accuracy of judging those people's personality would be very low. You wouldn't be able to infer their extroversion much above chance. Now, if you overlay those pictures on top of each other, suddenly it becomes really clear which of these groups represents extroverted women. Right? Great. We see smiling, we see makeup, we see blonde hair. If you see larger pictures, you also see broader, more revealing clothing. Here, you see bangs, you see you see glasses, no smiling, natural dark hair. And also you see another interesting thing, that extroverted women do not have nostrils. Now, any guesses why extroverted women have no nostrils? Great! We have an extrovert, one extrovert there in the room who knows that if you take a selfie, you need to take it, obviously, like this, because then your face would look better. And also you can't see, that's why you can't see the nostrils here. Interestingly, if you look closer, more closely at those images, you would also see morphological differences between those faces. Introverted women tend to have different shape of the jaw, different shape of the nose, different shape of the forehead. So it's not just what they do to their faces or their facial expression, it's actual non-transient fixed facial features that they cannot really change, that reveal their personality. And now, why computers are, well, and before we go there, I will just already tell you, because I started, let me tell you, computers are way better than humans at predicting people's personalities from their faces. Now, this is because computers are better than us at extracting little pieces of information from broad range of signals. And I mentioned this today already when talking about Facebook likes. None of the facial features that you can see here is sufficient on its own to enable you to make a judgment that this person is introverted or extroverted. But when you take hundreds of little giveaways that are there on your face and you combine them together, you can arrive at the very accurate prediction of someone's personality. We most likely do exactly the same thing with gender because in our evolutionary history it was so important for our survival that we very quickly predict gender of other people from their faces. Now, it clearly wasn't as crucial to predict their personality because we're not as good at it. So now what you do with the faces, and again, probably for you guys it wouldn't be a surprise, you turn the face into a bunch of numbers, and then you train a deep learning neural network by providing the model with thousands of faces and thousands of psychological profiles, and then you can arrive at the model that would have an accuracy comparable with a short personality questionnaire. And what you can see here is you can see AI dreaming about introverted and extroverted women. That sounded bad. Their faces. And you can, so basically it's like a computer-based stereotype of introvert and extrovert, and you can see that this stereotype is pretty similar to our human stereotype of an introverted or an extroverted person. And it works across genders and races, ages, and so on. And you also have increasingly products out there that would enable you to utilize such predictions even if you haven't trained your own model, in this case, Microsoft Cognitive Services. And now, before we jump into questions, there's plenty of consequences of those findings that I would love to discuss with you guys. Let me talk to you for a second about one of the most important outcomes on personal level, really, not only on the level of the corporations or societies, but on our personal level for each of us of those findings, which is, I strongly believe that we are very basically heading really quickly towards the post-privacy world. And now, I know there's plenty of efforts in many different countries, and Germany is leading those efforts to try to protect people's privacy using smart legislation and smart technology. Now, the problem is that data is really difficult to police. It can move the borders really quickly to escape jurisdictions. It can be encrypted. It can be transformed in such a way as to escape the law. It can be stolen without leaving a trace, and then very easily laundered to have an appearance of legally obtained data. People do it with money. So believe me, it's way easier to do the same thing with data. So basically, I don't really believe that we can efficiently police the data. And let me give you an example. In many European countries, it's illegal to store information about your sexual orientation. But now I can also tell you that your Facebook likes allow predicting your sexual orientation with 90+ accuracy, close to perfect. Now, this basically means that your Facebook likes are information about your sexual orientation. So if you wanted to follow the letter of the law, you should ban companies from storing Facebook likes, credit card records, samples of your text, your geographical location, and so on. You would have to destroy the digital industry to enforce this piece of legislation. And it's difficult to see how to go around that. Another example from the US, where I'm sure you guys heard this story, how Target was predicting whether women were pregnant or not based on the shopping records. So the story blew in their face, and there was a lot of drama, and Target said, of course we are not doing it anymore. It was a great mistake. Guess what they're predicting now? They're predicting a significant change in young women's life that is going to affect her shopping patterns. And guess what? It's completely not shocking to anyone. No consumers would lose their sleep over that, yet it's basically predicting whether they're pregnant or not. Now, how do you write legislation to prevent companies from doing that? But now imagine that we somehow manage to give people full control over their data with some magical technology that I cannot really envision. Now, guess what? If big organizations whose only task or one of the major tasks is to collect and protect the data cannot really do that, how you can explain or expect that people, individuals, will have enough brain power and enough time and enough assets and money to protect their own data, to protect someone from hacking their device or listening to what is transmitted from it. Moreover, even if I gave you full control over your data, there's a lot that you want to share anyway. I want my Twitter to be public. I want my blog to be public. I want my articles to be public. I want my face and my voice I want to carry it around without having to hide it. And this is already enough to make very accurate predictions about what my future behavior is going to be and what my intimate traits are. And now also when we're talking about privacy here in the context of the relatively free and open-minded Western world, we usually think about, oh my God, if we lose privacy, maybe we'll get some creepy marketing, maybe some politicians will get unfair advantage. But think for a second about countries which are not so open-minded and not so free. Now, you see a computer model thinking about stereotypes of two types of men. Now, what traits the algorithm here is looking at? Come on, guys. Turn on your human predictive powers. Conservative? Well, close. That's sexual orientation. Now, based on 5 images, still image of someone's face, a computer algorithm can predict male sexual orientation with 92% accuracy. And we talk about an algorithm developed on this laptop. We're not talking about supercomputers and high-resolution images and short videos and whatnot. Which basically means that sexual orientation is displayed on your face as much as your gender is. It's just that humans can't read it. Guess what? Computers can. And now think about all of those countries where being gay is, or losing your privacy if you're gay, is a matter of death and life, literally. And now this is why I really want you to perhaps change or update your thinking about privacy, because we are talking a lot about how to protect the privacy, but my point here is that we can win some battles. And I don't want to discourage you from developing technologies and legislation that will protect our privacy more. But essentially, we have lost this war. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner we can move on to trying to make sure that the post-privacy society is still a nice and safe and habitable place to be. And I like to use the tornado example here. Look, guys, I would be first to make tornadoes illegal tomorrow and give everyone a personal choice to opt out of being hit by a tornado or an earthquake ever in their lives. But guess what? All of this talk and legislation would not stop tornadoes and earthquakes from coming. So the sooner we accept that fact, and the sooner we try to talk about how to minimize the damage of the tornado of the post-privacy era, the better and safer for all of us. And I should stop here, and we can move on to questions. Thank you, guys.
So thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I'm sure that there will be some questions. There is already the first hand right now. Okay, quicker.
Whenever I go to Amazon and I buy something like a vacuum cleaner, the next thing that happens is I go to some websites and I get all those ads by this famous big company starting with a big G, giving me ads for vacuum cleaners. And on one side, this makes me angry because, go away with those stupid ads. On the other side, it kind of calms me down because when I think, how smart are these algorithms actually if they think that a person that just bought a vacuum cleaner needs another one tomorrow? I really think we are not yet there.
So that's a great point, and thank you for asking this question, because this is a common illusion that we have, that those algorithms are stupid. Now, and they're not, and let me tell you why. So first of all, you have to realize that if you're an advertising platform like Facebook, you are not in the business of the most accurate targeting. This is difficult to grasp for most of the people at the beginning, but Facebook, even if it tells you, oh, we optimize our marketing, not at all. They're not optimizing their marketing. They know that you bought a vacuum cleaner or whatever, and they will still sell your eyeballs to advertisers who want to sell you vacuum cleaner. Guess why? Because they're earning money on it. Facebook is optimizing, and Google and other marketing platforms are optimizing for their income, not for the accuracy. And now, interestingly, if you boost the accuracy, you decrease the income. Think about it for a second. If I know that you guys are going to buy a given product, and you guys are going to buy a very different product, then the marketing people don't have to compete for your eyeballs. Some companies will show adverts to you, some other companies will show adverts to you, they don't have to compete. So now by increasing accuracy of predictions, I'm killing my auction-based market for your eyeballs. So those companies specifically do not run accurate predictions. They run predictions accurate enough not to lose the customers, but because customers have very little control, they don't really know, they cannot see the data on the other side, they specifically drive against making those predictions more accurate. So this is the first point. Now the second point is, again, beautifully illustrated by the Target example. Look, they were caught being creepy because when they predicted that you were pregnant, they would send you leaflets full of adverts for baby buggies and nappies and so on. And this basically was creeping people out. So what they're doing now, they would still send you adverts of nappies and baby buggies, but they also would add an ad of a chainsaw on the front page. So you can say, oh my God, how stupid this computer is, because obviously I would never buy a chainsaw, but look, those nappies. And exactly the same strategy is employed by all sorts of other marketing environments when they want to make sure that the user is not creeped out and the user is convinced that the algorithm is bloody stupid.
Okay, so thanks a lot for your talk. You talked about companies that collect digital footprints or publicly available digital footprints. So I was wondering, to what extent are they used and how successful are they? So just based on the public footprint.
That's a great question, and well, they're definitely underused. So we see this, we see that the kind of what we could do and what we're doing, those are two different things, but they're catching up really quickly because it's giving companies a huge competitive edge. It's giving marketers a huge competitive edge. So I also wouldn't know because they wouldn't tell me. So that's the first thing, that if you're a researcher of privacy, if you're researching privacy and giving talks like that, companies will never tell you what they're doing with the data. Also, they will never tell the general public because this creeps people out, right? So it's very difficult to actually know what exactly is being done. I can tell you what's possible. So for instance, I can tell you that if you target your marketing based on your customer's personality, you can increase the efficiency of this marketing by a factor of 2. So for each dollar spent, you're getting 2 times more efficiency. And now we're talking about already very highly optimized digital environment, where companies would sell you shiny products that give you 2 or 3% of a competitive edge, right? If you're spending $10 million on marketing, and I can improve the efficiency by 3%, this is a lot of money. Now, if I can improve efficiency by 100%, this is even more money. Thank you for taking this intellectual leap here with me on the stage.
Hi. You gave the example of predicting someone's sexual orientation. Do you have any suggestions on how to prevent, say, states of using this technology to identify individuals and, I don't know, execute them?
That's a great question, and in fact, I don't really think that, so there are many technologies proposed. Like one idea is, and you can talk about facial images, you can also talk about other digital footprints, is to add some noise to it. But this is silly because first of all, the benefits that we're getting from platforms like Facebook or Google or Amazon are very heavily relying on us actually giving them honest information about where we are and what we're doing and what we're buying. If you suddenly start adding noise to this data, your benefits from using your enjoyment of using Facebook will go down. Not to mention that suddenly, if 99% of your Facebook likes are random, this is just silly. What will your profile look like? Imagine 99% of your status updates being random. Or you want to write a sentence in your status update, but you have to add a random word every second word. This just would be a very bad experience, not only for you, but for everyone else. Also, I think that what people keep forgetting is that sharing data is really important for the society. Look, if, let's talk about healthcare records. If you ask me, hey, Mihal, do you want to donate your healthcare records to the companies and institutions? I would be like, well, I don't really want to do that, right? It's just making me uneasy. It also can put me in a disadvantageous position where maybe my healthcare data reveals that, I don't know, I'm prone to having some awful disease in the future, and I can be refused coverage by an insurance company. But on the other hand, if we all manage to withdraw our data from the healthcare industry and from the academia, we are preventing them from using the very methods that we discussed today to find better diagnostic tools, better treatments, to study influence of different types of food or environments or medicine on people. So basically, by not sharing my healthcare data, I'm making a disservice to other people. I'm decreasing their well-being and decreasing their life expectancy. You could think about sharing data a bit like taxes. No one here, maybe there are some crazy people, but most of us are not enthusiastic about paying their taxes. Yet most of us also understand that it's an important thing to do because this is what keeps the society running. Another example, Google Maps. If you found a way of navigating through a geographical environment without revealing your own location, you're just free riding on all of those other people that gave up their privacy to enable this amazing technology of Google Maps. That is probably one of the most eco-friendly and time-saving technologies that humanity has come up with in recent years. Think about how much gas is saved every day because people are using it. But, sorry, let me just finish. So basically, essentially, I believe there's no way of preventing computers from making these predictions. And the sooner you accept it, the better. The sooner we accept that gay people, that being gay would be as visible to others as the gender is today, the sooner we can change how we run our societies and also how we treat our neighbors. How tolerant are we of intolerance, including both in our neighbors and other countries? Look, US can be friends with Saudi Arabia today, saying, yeah, we are friends with Saudi Arabia, they're doing those awful things to gay people, but you know, if you're gay in Saudi Arabia, you just shut up. And everything will be fine and we can still be friends with them. Now, guess what? It's not going to be the case in the post-privacy world. So should we be tolerant of other people's intolerance? I think that basically time has come now that the tolerance of this kind, our tolerance for other people's intolerance, should end immediately. So. I'm sorry, sir.
No worries. You said, no, I can say you can easily measure that computers are better than humans, for example, in playing chess or Go, because you let them play against each other. Now, you said computers are a lot better than humans in detecting how open someone is or how extroverted, introverted they are. So how did you measure that to come to that conclusion?
Well, you can do it in quite a few different ways. And the way I like the most is what we call predictive validity. So we know that the benefit that we have from personality measurement is that by knowing your personality, I can predict your future behavior. So now I can measure personality in traditional ways, or by asking your friends to judge your personality, and see how well those predictions, those measurements predict your future behavior. And then I can compare how well the computer-based personality scores predict your future behavior. And now the ones that are more predictive of your future behavior are arguably more accurate. Now, interestingly, the big question is, why would you even want computers to predict personality? Why wouldn't you just ask this black box model to go and predict the actual outcomes that we're interested in? Like, I'm measuring personality to predict whether you will make a good salesman. Why should I ask a computer to predict your personality so then I can use my lame human ways of predicting from personality, your personality profile, whether you'll be a good salesman, if I can just ask this question directly? You can say, hey, algorithm, whether this person will be a good salesman or not. And the accuracy of this prediction would be even higher.
All right, thank you very much. Since we're already a little over time, there's still a lot of hands that came up. We'll have one last question, then hopefully afterwards, maybe in a more informal way, Michael might still be there to answer some questions, if that's okay. So I'll hand over the microphone one last time, and then please don't hesitate to ask some questions still afterwards.
I'd like to know how can I get access to this information, to this profile, where computers can calculate about me based on publicly available information like my face, my likes, and so on. What should happen? Currently, this information is hidden from me, and for me, this is actually the problem.
So I'm not sure if I got the question. So the question is how this information can be...
How can I get access to the information, to the computer-made predictions about my personality?
I think that most of this information is something that you share probably even voluntarily. If you're posting your tweets on Twitter, you have access to all of this data, right?
Yes, but I don't know the predictions made by computer. I don't know the outcome of the model. I just know the input.
I see. Well, the best way is just to see. Look, let me answer it in a different way. If you want to see if you are perceived as a nice person or not, you don't have to go around and ask people, hey, do you think I'm nice? You can just see how they behave when they interact with you, right? And it's exactly the same with computer predictions. You don't need to know exactly, well, you don't need to have Amazon to show you. We think that you are interested in vacuum cleaners. You can just go to Amazon and see what kind of adverts they're showing to you. If you don't know whether Facebook thinks that you're left-wing or right-wing, just see what kind of messages and stories, news stories you're getting in your newsfeed. If those newsfeed stories are about how conservative people are silly and liberal people are smart, then guess what? This is basically probably what Facebook thinks you think, right? Which brings me to another interesting subject, which is echo chambers. We have this myth now perpetuated by journalists of us somehow being put in an echo chamber by this evil algorithm. Well, there's absolutely no evidence of that. We are the best informed people ever. If you lived 100 or 200 years ago, probably 99 of the things you knew were fake news, and also you didn't really know too many things, and you're living in a small echo chamber of your village when there was just one teacher, one priest, and your parents, and all of your neighbors shared exactly the same information as you did. You just didn't have an impression that you're living in an echo chamber because you've never seen your echo chamber from outside. Now, what happens today that we stay connected with a very broad range of people on Facebook. We have access to every single piece of information that humanity has ever produced. Just it's one click away from you on the internet. So we know way more things, but also somehow we are faced with people very different from us, which allows you to, for a second, see their echo chamber and your own echo chamber from outside. So guess what? Of course, as humans, we are living in echo chambers. Why? Because of the psychological phenomenon of confirmation bias, which basically means that you prefer to interact with information that confirms what you already know. And guess what? This is very safe and healthy. We will all go crazy if we have no confirmation bias. It would be impossible. I would have told you that, aliens are running the world, and be like, oh yeah, Michał said aliens are running the world. It must be true. It's great that you actually reject information that doesn't fit your worldview very clearly. Yet, maybe aliens are running the world. Yet the echo chambers that humans are occupying now are the largest chambers that we ever had in the history of humanity. And because I'm talking, I will go and talk for 2 more minutes. It makes perfect sense. This is the related myth of fake news. Somehow humans believe that now we are bombarded with fake news all the time. Yes, we are, but we were always, throughout the whole history of humanity, we're bombarded with fake news about people walking on water, and your king being a divine son of the god, and about leeches helping you to treat all of the disease. Most of the things you knew in the past, or people knew in the past, was fake news. Now, we are the best informed people in the history of humanity. And now being best informed and also having this beautiful, shiny set of digital tools that make us even better informed suddenly opens your eyes to the fact that a lot of what you know is fake. If you're born 100 years ago, you got a lot of fake news. It took us decades to debunk, or millennia to debunk some of those fake news. Today, it takes 30 seconds for my Facebook friends to debunk a fake piece of news that I post on my newsfeed. I sometimes do as well, because I didn't know better, but I'm immediately brought to heel, and they tell me, look, Michał, this is not true, and I found this website, and you can see some data and whatnot, which creates an impression, oh my God, everything is fake. No, we just got so good at debunking the myths that we have an illusion of being surrounded by fake news, where the truth is exactly the opposite. We are best informed people in the history of humankind. Thank you, guys. I should stop here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.